You've been carrying something heavy without naming it, that weight in your chest when you wake up at 3 in the morning, the feeling that you're always one step behind where you're supposed to be, the exhaustion that doesn't match your actual workload. You've been waiting for a sign that your life is finally moving in the right direction, that all these years of quiet endurance actually meant something. Here's what you missed. On April 15th, something shifted. Not in the world around you, but in the invisible architecture that governs how opportunities find you. You made a choice that day, or in the days surrounding it, a decision so subtle you probably classified it as insignificant. Maybe you said no to something that would have drained you, even though saying yes was your default pattern. Maybe you started something without knowing how it would end. Maybe you chose your own peace over someone else's chaos. That moment, that singular act of alignment between who you truly are and what you actually did, functioned as our activation key. And what it activated wasn't a quick fix or a temporary boost. It initiated a 10-year blessing cycle, a cascading sequence of doors opening in your future that you cannot yet see. This isn't mysticism. This is the mechanics of destiny responding to integrity. You need to understand something that changes everything about how the next decade of your life unfolds. When you operate from your deepest truth, even in small moments, you emit a specific frequency. That frequency doesn't just affect your mood or your energy level. It literally reorganizes the probability field around you, making certain futures more accessible and certain patterns obsolete. The reason this works on a 10-year scale is because it doesn't just change one circumstance. It alters the root programming that has been running your life on repeat. Every breakthrough you've experienced in the past came after a moment like this, a moment when you acted differently than your conditioning demanded. The difference is that this time, the stakes are exponentially higher.
Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life, a guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming, with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10,000 readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you, who were tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.
And the universe's response is proportionally larger. The step you took on or around April 15th was registered by the intelligence that governs synchronicity. And now, whether you believe this or not, a sequence has been set in motion. Before I show you exactly what's happening in the invisible realm and how to recognize the signs that this blessing is already materializing, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel right now. The algorithms favor those who signal their interest early, and you being here is not random. Hit that like button so this message reaches others who need to hear it. And when you feel the shift I'm describing, when you recognize yourself in what I'm about to reveal, drop the word activated in the comments. That simple act of declaration amplifies the frequency you're already broadcasting. Your comment becomes part of the collective field that accelerates manifestation for everyone in this community. Let me take you into the hidden structure of what just happened in your life. There's a reason the ancients spoke of Kairos time versus Chronos time. Chronos is the clock, the calendar, the relentless march of minutes. Kairos is the opportune moment, the convergence of readiness and circumstance that cannot be forced or predicted. April 15th wasn't special because of the date itself. It became significant because on that day, or in that window, your internal readiness met an external opportunity to act from a new place inside yourself. You've been in preparation for years, even when it felt like nothing was happening. The isolation you endured wasn't punishment. It was incubation. The delays that frustrated you weren't denials. They were protection from pathways that would have locked you into smaller versions of your destiny. Every time you wanted to quit but didn't, Every time you chose integrity when shortcuts were available, every time you stayed soft when life gave you permission to harden, you were building capacity for what's coming now. Think about Ruth for a moment. A widow in a foreign land with no social capital, no resources, no obvious path forward. She made a decision that seemed small, to stay with her mother-in-law Naomi instead of returning to her own people. That choice, made in a moment of grief and uncertainty, set in motion a chain of events that resulted in her becoming the great-grandmother of King David, placing her in the direct lineage of the Messiah. The decision didn't look powerful when she made it. It looked like loyalty to an old woman, but that act of integrity, that refusal to abandon someone in their darkest hour, activated a 10-year, actually a multi-generational blessing that she could not have engineered through strategy. She simply acted from her deepest truth, and the universe responded by weaving her into the fabric of history. The step you took recently carries that same quality. It didn't feel monumental, because monumental shifts rarely announce themselves with trumpets. They whisper, and you listened. Here's what you need to grasp about activation mechanics. When you act from alignment, you're not manipulating reality or trying to force an outcome. You're removing interference. Most people live with a constant static between their souls, frequency, and their daily choices. They know what they should do, but they do what's convenient. They sense what's true, but they speak what's acceptable. They feel the pull toward their purpose, but they stay in situations that contradict it because the alternative feels too uncertain. That static, that misalignment, creates a block in the energy system that prevents synchronicity from flowing. The moment you dissolve that block, even partially, even in one area of your life, the entire system starts to recalibrate. Doors that were invisible become obvious. People who were strangers become allies. Resources that were scarce become abundant. Not because you suddenly got lucky, but because you removed the frequency jam that was keeping blessings from reaching you. What you did on April 15th was dissolve a block. You chose differently. And in that choice, you signaled to the intelligence that orchestrates reality, I'm ready now. I'm no longer available for patterns that diminish me. I'm no longer willing to betray myself for comfort. The universe doesn't respond to wishes or affirmations or vision boards. It responds to action that matches frequency. You took that action. Now the response begins. Let me show you what the next phase looks like. But first, I need you to turn on your notifications. Click that bell icon right now because the information coming through this channel is sequenced. Each message builds on the last. If you miss one, you'll lose the thread. And this window of opportunity is time-sensitive. The 10-year blessing is activated, but your conscious participation accelerates how quickly the first fruits appear. Notification on means you don't miss the next piece of this puzzle. The initial signs of a 10-year blessing activation are rarely dramatic. You won't wake up to a bank transfer or a job offer in your inbox, at least not immediately. What happens first is internal. You'll notice a clarity you haven't felt in years. Problems that seemed insurmountable will suddenly have obvious solutions. Decisions that paralyzed you will become simple. This isn't because the external circumstances changed. It's because your frequency changed, and from that new frequency, you perceive reality differently. You'll start to feel a quiet confidence that has nothing to do with your current conditions. It's the confidence that comes from knowing you're finally aligned with your true path, even if you can't see the destination yet. After the internal clarity comes the external synchronicities. You'll think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they'll contact you within days with an opportunity or information you needed. You'll overhear a conversation in a coffee shop that contains the exact answer to a question you've been wrestling with. You'll stumble across an article, a book, a video that feels like it was made specifically for you. These aren't coincidences. This is the universe confirming that you're on the frequency now. You're in the flow. And once you're in the flow, the current carries you toward your destination faster than effort ever could. But here's where most people sabotage themselves. They start to doubt. The old patterns, the old voices, the old fears come rushing back. They think, this is too good to be true. They think, I don't deserve this. They think, what if it all falls apart? And in that doubt, they reactivate the static. They reintroduce the interference. The blessing is still there, the doors are still open, but they can't see them anymore Because they've shifted back to the old frequency. You cannot afford to do that. The doubt will come. Expect it, but don't obey it. When the doubt shows up, when the fear whispers that you're fooling yourself, remember April 15th. Remember the choice you made. Remember that you are not the same person you were before that moment. You are operating from a new foundation now, and that foundation is solid. Consider Caleb. At 85 years old, he stood before Joshua and said, "Give me the mountain you promised me 45 years ago." 45 years. Think about that. He waited almost half a century for the fulfillment of a promise, and when the moment finally came, he didn't ask for something easy. He asked for the mountain, the territory that still had giants in it, the place that required the most faith and the most effort. Why? Because he understood something most people never learn. The waiting wasn't wasted time, it was preparation time. Every year of delay was building the strength, the wisdom, the character he would need to claim and hold the blessing when it finally arrived. If the blessing had come earlier, he wouldn't have been ready. He would have lost it. The same is true for you. The 10 years ahead aren't just about receiving. They're about becoming someone who can hold what's being given. And the step you took on April 15th was the signal that you're ready now to begin that process. Let me tell you what's happening in the unseen realm while you go about your daily routine. Every action you take from alignment creates a ripple in the field of potentiality. That ripple moves out from you in concentric circles, touching circumstances, touching people, touching opportunities that are not yet visible to you. Those ripples begin to interact with other ripples, other frequencies, creating interference patterns that solidify into what you experience as events, meetings, breakthroughs. The more consistently you act from alignment, the stronger those ripples become and the faster they coalesce into tangible results. This is not metaphor. This is physics applied to consciousness. You are not separate from the field you're moving through. You are a generator within it, constantly broadcasting, constantly receiving. What you broadcast determines what you receive. For years, you were broadcasting a mixed signal, part hope, part fear, part faith, part doubt. The universe couldn't deliver a clear response to a mixed signal, but now, with the choice you made, the signal is clarifying, and the response is beginning to match. Here's what you need to do practically. Start paying attention to what shows up in your awareness, not just the big things, but the small things. The book recommendation from a stranger, the sudden urge to call someone, the idea that pops into your head at 2 in the morning. These are not random. These are guidance signals, breadcrumbs leading you toward the next right step. Most people ignore these signals because they seem too simple or too small to matter. But this is exactly how the universe works. It doesn't send you a complete map. It sends you one step at a time, and only when you take the step you've been given do you get the next one. The 10-year blessing doesn't download all at once. It unfolds progressively, each phase building on the last, each revelation preparing you for the next level. You also need to protect your frequency. This is critical. Not everyone in your life is going to understand what's happening to you. Some people will be threatened by your growth. Some will try to pull you back into old patterns because your evolution forces them to confront their own stagnation. You have to be willing to disappoint them. You have to be willing to outgrow relationships that no longer serve your highest path. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or unkind. It means you become discerning. You recognize that not everyone is meant to travel with you into this next chapter, and that's okay. Bless them and release them. Your loyalty is to your calling now, not to comfort or familiarity. If you haven't shared this video yet, do it now. Send it to someone who needs to hear this message, not because you're trying to evangelize, but because the act of sharing amplifies your own activation. When you become a conduit for truth, you strengthen your connection to the source of that truth. The blessing flows through you more powerfully when you allow it to flow to others. This is spiritual physics. Hoarding blocks the current. Generosity accelerates it. There's a concept in ancient wisdom traditions called the appointed time. The idea is that certain blessings are time-released, encoded into your destiny, but only accessible when you reach a certain level of readiness. You can't force the timing. You can't manipulate it into happening sooner. But you can prepare yourself so that when the appointed time arrives, you're not caught off guard. You're ready. What happened on April 15th was an appointed time moment. The preparation is over. The waiting season is complete. Now comes the manifestation phase, and it's going to move faster than you expect. Things that took years to develop will suddenly accelerate. Relationships that seemed impossible will suddenly form. Opportunities that were closed will suddenly open. Not because the universe is playing favorites, but because you finally came into alignment with what's been waiting for you all along. Let me give you one more example from the ancient texts. Nehemiah was a cupbearer to a foreign king, a position of relative comfort and safety, but completely disconnected from his true purpose. For years he carried a burden for his people and their ruined city, but he couldn't do anything about it. Then one day he made a choice. He allowed his grief to show on his face in the presence of the king, something that could have cost him his life. That moment of vulnerability, that decision to stop hiding his true heart, activated a chain of events that resulted in him rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem in 52 days. 52 days to accomplish what seemed impossible. Why? Because the appointed time had arrived, and he was finally ready to act from his deepest truth instead of his fear. The step you took on April 15th carries that same energy. You stopped hiding. You stopped pretending. You stopped tolerating what contradicts your soul. And in that moment of authenticity, you gave the universe permission to move on your behalf. Now let me tell you what's coming in the next 90 days, because this is where it gets tangible. You're going to receive an opportunity that seems slightly out of reach, something that requires you to stretch beyond your current capacity. Do not dismiss it. Do not tell yourself you're not ready. That opportunity is the first test of whether you're going to ride this wave or let it pass. The 10-year blessing doesn't come as a passive gift. It comes as a series of invitations to step into larger versions of yourself. Each invitation requires courage. Each one asks you to trust what you feel more than what you see. If you say yes to the first invitation, the second one will be bigger. If you say yes to the second, the third will be even more expansive. This is how the universe confirms that you're serious, that you're not just talking about change, but actually willing to embody it. You're also going to experience a pruning. Relationships, habits, situations that are no longer aligned with your new frequency will begin to fall away. This might feel painful. You might be tempted to hold on, to force things to work that are clearly dying. Don't. The pruning is necessary. It's creating space for what's coming. Every branch that gets cut makes room for new growth. Every ending is preparing you for a beginning you can't yet imagine. Trust the process. Trust that what's leaving needed to leave, and what's coming is better than anything you're releasing. The most important thing you can do right now is stay present. Don't get so focused on the future promise that you miss the present moment. The blessing is already here. It's in the clarity you're feeling. It's in the synchronicities that are starting to appear. It's in the quiet knowing that something has shifted, even if you can't articulate it yet. The 10 years ahead are built on the choices you make today. Every day you choose alignment over convenience, truth over comfort. You're compounding the blessing. Every day you choose fear over faith, doubt over trust. You're delaying the manifestation. It's that simple. You have the power. You've always had the power. April 15th was just the moment you finally decided to use it. One more thing before we close. The enemy of activation is distraction. In the coming weeks, you're going to be tempted to chase shiny objects, to scatter your energy across multiple directions, to second-guess the path you're on. This is the resistance trying to derail you before you gain momentum. You have to stay focused. You have to protect your attention like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Where energy flows, results grow. Keep your attention on the vision, on the frequency, on the truth of who you're becoming. Everything else is noise. So I'm going to leave you with this. The next video on this channel is going to reveal the 3 signs that your 10-year blessing has moved from activation to acceleration, and how to recognize when you're about to cross the threshold into the abundance phase. You don't want to miss that. Make sure your notifications are on. Make sure you're subscribed. This is a sequence, and every piece matters. You didn't stumble into this moment by accident. You were led here, you were ready, and now the universe is ready to respond. The step you took on April 15th wasn't the end of your struggle. It was the beginning of your victory. The waiting is over. The work begins now. And 10 years from today, you're going to look back at this moment and realize it was the turning point. Everything changed when you finally chose yourself. Everything shifted when you finally aligned with truth. The blessing is active, the doors are open. All you have to do now is walk through them.
Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life, a guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming, with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10,000 readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who were tired of living in the fog, ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.